Out of all the arcs within Fairy Tail, there's one that always made me very intrigued just thinking about it in the long run, and that is the Phantom Lord arc. And not only because we end up actually getting some more backstory on them, a little bit of their origin in Volume Zero, but some of the questions when you think about like how things were going to go. Like if you look back at the Grand Magic Games and think like, what if Gildarts was there? Like just thinking about Phantom Lord, if all of the S class members of the Fairy Tail Guild were present. Like they didn't have Laxus, they didn't have Mystigun. Mira Jane couldn't control her magic at the time, and Gildarts was not present. And this was what's funny with that is like Laxus, they tried to contact him, didn't want to come back. Found out that Mystigun was acting like in the shadows, but Gildarts came back like a couple months later. Like Jose definitely had his. I always switch from Jose to Jose, but I think it's Jose, but it's Jose Porla, so I think it's Hispanic. Plus, he looks kind of Hispanic. I don't know. I think it's just his face. But he the thing about Jose, I'm screwed. I'm just gonna go with Jose because I can't say Jose. It just seems weird. The thing about him is he had a very long set dislike of the Fairy Tail Guild. And when he was fighting Urza, I thought it was extremely funny when he said like that he refused to believe that anyone in Fairy Tail was above her. At the time, Mystigun was definitely, Mystigun and Laxus were for sure above him. Gildarts, that is unquestionable. And it would have been so much more of a stomp for Fairy Tail if Gildarts was present, just because it literally would have been Gildarts walks in, wrecks literally every single person but Jose at once, and then what is this going to be the entire guild versus Jose? I mean, that'd be unfortunate because we already know that like he could one shot Natsu at the time, and Natsu was equal to Gajeel, and you had members that were equal to the Elemental Four. It was, I mean, you could probably say like Laxus and Mystigan because they weren't Wizard Saint tier at the time fully. So it's like, okay, they could fight, but would they win? Laxus, probably. Gildarts, very likely. But that whole arc, I think, was very, very fun. But at the same time, you get further in the series, and it's not even like before, like, oh, character power ups. The main cast gets stronger for these scenes, these events. It's more of just like characters that were existent at the time, and the dude was lucky that they just weren't present. But Jose, I, I felt bad for him as a character, not only because like he was knocked out pretty early as a wizard saint, but he was a wizard saint in general because the wizard saints are a weird bunch because they don't, for whatever reason, they have this title, they have this position, but Hiramishima has like specifically never treated them that well. Like other than Jalal, like I don't think the Wizard Saints ever really get a lot of love from him. Like you got a lot of different titles. You have characters who are specific groups within guilds. Seven Kin of Purgatory, the Nine Demon Gates, the Spriggan 12. I mean, no, they're not really. They're part of the Alvarez Empire, but still, faction. But when you have them all getting pretty good displays, and you always have like one or two characters within the group that get defeated pretty easily. Maybe a measuring stick character, someone like God Serena, and God Serena was definitely worse because he was both Spriggan 12 and he was a Wizard Saint at one point, so he got a double dosage of getting screwed on. But the Wizard Saints, like, really, they didn't get a lot of affection from the guy, and it was upsetting for poor Jose because yeah, I keep switching between Jose and Jose, but I end up switching to Jose. I don't know, but with Jose, I gotta try and just Jose. But with him, he got knocked out early, and he never came back. It wasn't like Jura. Jura got mentioned within the Galuna Island arc, and then we finally saw him during the Horacio and Seis arc. He ended up coming back in the Grand Magic games, and then he was in the Alvarez arc, but not much. At least he was existent. There was speculation that I'm doing it again, that Jose and Ivan were going to be allied up with Alvarez, never showed up again. I'm hoping that Jose will end up as like a villain in like a spin-off. Like you have, whichever character gets a spin-off, like Elfman. And it's like, who would be a villain that we can have? Maybe we don't have to write like a backstory. It's like we just want to have like a bad guy in there. Oh, what if we had Jose, and then you could, have Elfman or someone beat him, and it's like, damn, they just beat a Wizard Saint character. You don't need to really establish much for the characters. It's like when we got Blue Note. Remember when Natsu came back after the Tartarus arc. We're getting right early into part three. Building up for the Alvarez War. And Blue Note was in Orochi's fin, and you had him there. You didn't need to build up anything around him because we already knew about Blue Note. And then Natsu completely just trashing him was like, damn, we know that is extremely impressive without any build up within this arc because we got it before. And poor Jose, see, with Jose, he never came back. He never showed back up in the series. And with Ivan, it was a little different because Ivan's power level, like his position, it was always speculated because he had beef with guild arts, but he never really got any established like level to him. It was all fan speculation. Jose was a wizard saint, so he definitely has something going on for him. But him as a character, he's got a very straightforward kind of style to him. Not design wise. His design is very strange. Even within Fairy Tail, his design is one of the weirdest. Because he's got these like weird poofy pants and like elf shoes. I always really liked his cloak. His cloak is really cool. He's got that goofy hat. His wings are aesthetics. They aren't like he's got wings because of magic. He just has like big bat wings coming out of his back like a weirdo. And then he's got like this makeup on and pretty neat mustache. But he was a very odd looking character that we got fairly early into the series, and yet he was extremely powerful because he could fight with characters like Makarov. Obviously, he wasn't Makarov's level. The second Frere Law drops over for Jose, but he was the first person that we really saw Ursa go up against and struggle. And she was injured at the time, but it didn't even seem like if she was at full strength, she would have been able to contend with him. This was a dude who was a wizard saint. It was only until, events of... So you can't even use the events of the Tower of Heaven, because that was a dream that Urza had, which I still find extremely weird that she had a dream where the council talked about how great she was and, like, how powerful she was, and she was an honorary wizard saint, kind of like... or I just think that dream, it's so weird that it was, like, some form of vision there. But with Jose, he really wanted just he could retain Phantom Lord's position at the top guild, because they were big at the time. And what's sad for him is Joffrey. Joffrey had Blue Skull. Blue Skull ended up getting taken out by Mavis, Yuri, Preach, and Warred, and then afterwards they formed Fairy Tail, and Joffrey disbanded Blue Skull, formed Phantom Lord. I'm curious of, why he... Well, I say I'm curious of why Jose didn't know this, but I doubt Joffrey will want to be like, hey, this guild exists because my last one got completely demolished by a bunch of, like, rookies, probably not knowing, they got trained by Zareth. But it's just all around embarrassing. I really doubt he would go that. But it is interesting that, and also he looks way cooler in this outfit. Put that out there. But it was always very interesting to me that they just that little addition in Volume 0 just added an extra layer to this arc, because it gave a much further reason for there to be beef between Phantom Lord and Fairy Tail. So, and then even beyond that, like, it was sad for them because they were apparently on top, and then really the second they got guild arts, like their position as number one, it was just completely shattered. There was no recovery from that, and they got kind of screwed over, because it wasn't just like, oh, Fairy Tail's some strong members. Like, Fairy Tail's characters that were considered their strong members completely run through Phantom Lord's strong members. Like, Phantom Lord's big characters were the Elemental Four and Gajil. And Gajil, obviously stronger than the Elemental Four, was equal to Natsu. And Natsu really was, I mean, he was powerful at the time in comparison to the rest of the guild because they had like, I don't remember the exact number. It was like 120, 130 members at that point in the series overall. Lots of names. But he had multiple people above him. He had Urza, you know, if you count Mirror Jane, Laxus, Gildarts, almost a Jill Paul, Mistogun. And so it's like, you know, it's like, cool, Jose, you gotta get Jose. It's like, cool, you know, you're powerful, and there's powerful members of your guild, but the gap level total, not even counting you and Makarov, is too big between your guilds. So, I don't know. This poor dude, because he really just, like, he was petty. He was just kind of like this scummy villain. You didn't really need to know a lot about who he was. You didn't need to know a lot about you know, a lot about his large scale goal. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. He wanted to snuff out the people that were hurting the reputation of his guild at their position because he didn't want to share the title and he didn't want to lose the title as the number one guild. And beyond that, he wanted to exploit the Hartfilia family, get all of their money, and then use that to further just finance whatever his plans were. One thing that I found extremely hilarious, actually, just thinking about it, but again, at the same time, I doubt he really knows a lot about looking into characters because some of them with the Wizard Saints, we know that a lot of people didn't have interactions with, and it was very rare for them to meet up. Because what was it? Just off the top of my head, I think it was a couple years. I think it was 10 years since the last time that, like, before this arc, that Jose and Makarov met face to face. But you had like the Wizard Saints, and he's like, oh, we can establish a ranking order between them when he was going to fight Makarov, and I'm curious to know, like, if he knew that Warren as the Wizard Saint, ranked fourth, one of the four gods of Ishgal, was a founding member of the Fairy Tale Guild. There were multiple things that I would love to see him show back up, Jose, and then really just kind of break down the situation with him. You literally get like a what if machine, like what is it, the what if machine episodes from Futurama, and just show him, be like, hey, what if Phantom Lord attacked Fairy Tail when they're at full power, and anybody and then it's like, what if he knew that Warren was a founding member, and he'd just probably be like, well, shit, well, maybe we could be friends with them, and then leech off them. I don't know. He did a very poor job planning. It's just really what I want to look at stuff, because he should have researched more. And that was always a thing that, if like looking at him, I mean, he definitely was extremely arrogant, and that was definitely going to be the thing that ended him. He should have had more weapons, probably. Maybe like set up a much better means of like plans of attack. It was the fact that, yeah, he could deal with most of the people there, but extremely situational. He should have waited for Urza, especially, to go back out on a job. Not to probably. Obviously, like, he had Laxus and Mystiga not present, but it was unfortunate for him, because if Urza was at full power, Urza, we already saw she just ran through Arya like wall injured. Gajil would not really have been an issue for her. It literally just would have been Jose, and that's. But as is, I'm hoping his character comes back at some point. I would really love to see, rather, what he's doing. There's a lot of characters that I'm always very curious to how they are, and I don't need a full chapter describing them. I would just like to see how it is. Like, we saw, we know Juvia and Gajil are with Fairy Tail. Totomaru is, he's a teacher. He's the one that Romeo learned his magic from. But what happened with Arya in Soul? What's going on with Jose? It's the same thing that I thought about with Grimoire Heart. Like, what's going on with Kain? Because we saw Rusty Rose. Rusty Rose got a little bit in the Tartarus arc in the anime, and Hiroshima added that in because he wanted to have that in the manga. So that should be considered canon. And there's just a lot of parts of important characters. I don't expect every character, but you have a Wizard Saint guy who was the antagonist of probably the first like Smash arc of Fairy Tail, because it was The Phantom Lord arc is really like the arc that really like every single person I've talked to. Once they get to the Phantom Lord arc, that's where the hype train. Phantom Lord, you got Tower of Heaven, the Fighting Festival, Erasion Sace, Edalus, and then you got the Sirius Island, Grand Magic Games, Tartarus, Alvarez for the most part, and then 100 Years Quest and stuff, and then obviously include like Dragon Canon, but it's not a whole arc. But anyway, I've already gone a lot longer than I planned for Jose because it was much more of like his spot in the story than his character as a total. I liked his magic, and like I always really liked that Mira Jane, having demon magic, with takeover with or Satan Soul. And she said that Jose's magic was like one of the like most foul magics that she ever felt. At a point, it was like almost making her sick, and she like directly dealt in demonic magic, which is cool. And then like the creepy little ghost, spirits that he would use for like his spells, like his dead wave when Makarov blocked it, and he had that huge shock wave that like covered up a huge chunk of the lake. That was great. But anyway, comment below and tell me what you thought about this character. He's an interesting guy, like overall, but I thought he was a pretty solid single arc antagonist. Not a great one. I still think Mardigir is just like a perfect one arc bad guy. Jose, I still think is solid, not great. Definitely like a solid group. Like the Elemental Four and Gaugiel definitely were solid antagonists. Jose was he was a solid dude, but it's weird when you're the main boss and you're not nearly as good as Gaugiel was really the main boss because the fight with Makarov was not that big. I guess if you count Gaugiel as the main boss, then yeah, the main boss of Phantom Lord, fantastic. But anyway, yeah, comment below. Tell me what you thought about this guy. Tell me what you thought about the arc, Phantom Lord, awesome arc. And really appreciate the thumbs up the video, from the like button, the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. And I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And I thank you all for listening. Bye.